We are beautifully,
Welcome to the Beautifully Melanated podcast. I am one of your hosts, Sarah. And first of all, I just want to say welcome back. And I know we've had 2 weeks away. I myself personally feel very refreshed, navigating the summer holidays with my daughter. So yeah, just welcome back to all our listeners. As always, I'm here with my lovely co-hosts.
I'm Karen.
And I'm Kay. Good to be back. I am not so refreshed. I was working in the break, but we've had some lovely ideas for the podcast. You'll hear about them as the weeks go on. Definitely, if you can, follow our Instagram page because the announcements will be made there. Ladies, before we get into it tonight, I just wanted to share a reader letter from our last episode with Mel on yoni steaming. Now, this is from Paula. She's in America. And she says, I absolutely loved this episode. I had PCOS and was declared sterile by my GP in my mid-20s. I found out that I had PCOS because I suffered from adult acne and very painful periods. Of course, like your guest speaker, I too was prescribed contraception to regulate my cycles. Imagine my shock when, after being married 3 years, I became pregnant. I had a really bad sinus infection and was scheduled to have surgery on my septum, which was and is deviated. And I just kept getting worse, only to realize that I had missed my cycle. Literally less than a week later, I decided to take an at-home pregnancy test, which was positive. I proceeded to take 3 more, as this shouldn't have been possible. That was 17 years ago. Now I am the mother of 2 teenage boys. I wish I knew about V-steaming, as it is called here in the US. Back then, I must admit that I also tend to over-clean my yoni, and I did end up with BV several times. I am now in my 50s, and I believe I am menopausal. I'm having the odd cycles, mostly spotting or missing. I'm seriously considering a visit to a V-steaming spa. So there you go. Those of you who haven't headed over to Mel's page yet, go on, hook yourself up, get steaming.
Well, that was lovely feedback. Thanks for reading that, Kay.
Pleasure. And yeah, her boys are beautiful. And there was no medical treatment to aid the pregnancy. She fell naturally. So yeah.
That's a really good story. Happy ending.
Very happy ending. And now that we know that yoni steaming is something we can do to help our process, let's get into it, ladies. So tonight's topic, we're going to talk about university versus apprenticeship. So A-levels results came out maybe last week it was. Lots of people are celebrating on my timeline. They've passed. They're going to the uni of their choice. And Tyana asked, could she talk about the difference between going to university versus going straight into an apprenticeship? So we have 3 guests on tonight, Tyana, Chi, and Jada. They will introduce themselves as we speak, but I'm going to let the young ones take over and start our conversation going. So Tyana, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, I'm Tyana and I'm 22 and I've done an apprenticeship after I finished sixth form.
How did you do in your A-levels?
I got AACC, so it was alright.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what made you choose an apprenticeship over going straight into uni?
Because to be honest, I wanted to get better exam results. So I was predicted better. And then when I actually didn't get the results I wanted, I just feel like this is going to be the same thing that's going to happen when I go to uni. Like I'm going to put in loads of work and I might not get the results.
Right.
And then also, I already knew what I wanted to do. I already knew that I wanted to get into either banking or marketing. Mm-hmm. So I thought there's no point in going to university when there's really good apprenticeships out there for both. And then also, when you go to do an apprenticeship, you don't get any debt. They pay for your education and you also get paid a really good salary. So I thought I might as well just do an apprenticeship.
That sounds really good.
Yeah.
It wasn't an option back in my day. It was uni or nothing.
I'm so happy I'm one now.
Yeah. We'd love to hear more as we talk. But I'm going to bring in Chi. Hello, Chi. Welcome.
My name's Chi. I'm 23 years old and I just finished studying at university.
And what did you study?
I studied bioscience.
Bioscience. Oh, that sounds brilliant.
Yes, it's a lot, but it's worth it.
So you're finished now?
Yeah, I've just finished.
Any regrets?
No.
You hesitated there.
Yeah.
I'm going to come over to you, Jada. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi guys, I'm Jada. I'm 20 and I study product design engineering at university.
So, Jada, you're in what year?
I'm going into my third year now.
Right. And was it a given for you that you would go to university, or was there any discussion with mum about your options?
I think from quite a young age, I think the thing was to go to university. So it wasn't really much of a discussion whether or not I wanted to do like a different career path. I think uni was like the sort of end goal after school.
Yeah. And are you happy with your path, with your choice?
Yes and no, I'd say.
Okay. Like some more.
So there's like the uni side and there's university side. So uni is like, making friends, going to societies, having fun, that sort of stuff. And then there's university, which is like the actual work and the grind and, all that stuff. And especially, the effects of the pandemic really affected and impacted my first year. A lot of like online learning, is quite difficult. So there have been ups and downs, but I think now I'm more, grounded, more focused, and it's been better, I'd say.
Thanks for sharing that. Now, Karen, I know you wanted to join the conversation and talk about uni versus apprenticeship from a parent perspective. So talk to us.
I think that, as we mentioned before, Kay, that lots of ethnic minority parents, families tend to favour the university path, I guess because many of us believe that education is the route out of sort of, economic confinement, isn't it? So for myself, I didn't go to university straight from school. I went to college and I had several jobs before I went to university as an adult. I don't think there's a right or wrong way, to be fair, but I think for my children, I always thought, wouldn't it be great if they could choose something that they were passionate about, that they enjoyed? I think that's very important. A subject or a career path that they are interested in, and to get their education out of the way while they're quite young. Because I personally found studying as an adult quite taxing, because then I've got children, I've got responsibilities, I've got a house to run, all those sorts of things. Whereas for my daughter, going in at sort of 18, she didn't have those kind of challenges. So I always thought if she could pick a subject, like I say, that she was passionate about, get it out of the way, hopefully she would have a greater earning potential much earlier on in her life, which is a very different experience to what I had. Because like I say, I had several jobs really until I found a career as an adult. So yeah, we discussed it. But she's right. It was always really a given, to be fair. I've always sort of championed education and felt that, like I say, education is not the only, but a good route, I would say, out of economic restraints, I would say. And looking at, in my area, in my sort of community, lots of families that I spend a lot of time with in my sort of social circle, these parents are professional people. I'm friends with lots of sort of, nurses, teachers, doctors, even that kind of thing. They're all professional families and their children all went to university. It was just a given. And I looked at these families and they were quite affluent. The children seemed quite happy, quite grounded. And it seemed like a natural choice, really. And to be fair, we hadn't heard of very many apprenticeships because I think in recent years, the government hasn't really invested perhaps as much resources and sort of money into apprenticeships as perhaps they could, which would give a better choice. I think that's the apprenticeship route is somewhat limited. Obviously, there are downsides with university because my daughter has now started her adult life with a debt, and it's a huge debt, right? So that is definitely a downside. And I can totally understand why for some people, it's just not viable. I think that's a really, that's a negative. But I think if you choose a degree that is likely to get you into consistent work where you can command a reasonable starting salary, I think that is preferable, right? I know some families who have encouraged their children to take a degree or to study at university, I would say for the sake of going to university, and therefore perhaps the choice of subject has been very limiting. So, for example, I know someone who studied travel and tourism. I'm not suggesting that studying travel and tourism is not a good degree. It may well be. But what happened to this person was that they found it wasn't specific enough. And therefore, they really struggled to find employment. So with my daughter, we discussed what was her passion? What does she like? Because I think to say to my daughter, oh, look, you will study veterinary science, whether you like it or not, would just not be sensible, right? That wouldn't work. I'm not, what's the word? A dictator.
Authoritarian?
Yeah, I'm not, I'm not dictator. That wouldn't work for us. She's studying, right? It's her degree, it's her life. It has to be something she's interested in. She was always interested in product design and manufacture. She just really liked that sort of creative side of things. She likes to see how things are made, and she was always interested in that sort of thing. So engineering sort of combined with this sort of creative element was the obvious choice for her. So then she looked at universities that offered those types of courses. And then she went and visited and came back, and she decided on the one she wanted. So perhaps, Jada, you can go and talk a little bit more about your grades at A-level. So she did her A-levels. She did very well. And it was a really difficult time because it was when they
used this algorithm to predetermine my grades.
That's right. Because of the pandemic, she actually didn't sit her A-levels that year, which, was really impactful because obviously she studied, for a two-year course, isn't it? Right? Mm. So that was really difficult. And they used an algorithm.
Plenty, Jada, when no one sat anything and the teachers assigned a grade based on coursework, that combination. Was it that year?
Yes. So what happened initially was the government introduced this algorithm where basically a computer decided based on the school you went to what grade you were likely to get.
Say what now?
Exactly. Yeah, they did. And what happened was if you were really, really high performer, your grades were kind of averaged out. So if you were probably set to get, 3 A stars, it would sort of like average out to maybe like 2 Bs and a C or something.
Oh my God, I would riot.
There was public outcry. Parents were absolutely up in arms. What do you want to say?
I'm not going to call out the school, but there's like a school, and it became quite popular in like social media because the school had achieved like the highest ever A stars on record, and it was just upsetting because even though I maybe live in like a quote unquote more deprived area, the kids are very high achieving, and it wasn't reflective in our results.
Absolutely. That was the point. So the children from this school who would have done very well, this algorithm changed that. And like Jada said, they it was the school is in quite a sort of deprived area, and these kids have worked really, really hard. So this algorithm really upset a lot of people. And so the government had to
like a U-turn.
Yeah, they had to U-turn. They had to, reevaluate. And then it became teacher assessments. So, for example, if you were a child who perhaps hadn't worked very hard for the 2 years, but, some kids can pull it out the bag, can't they? Yeah, some kids are quite clever and they're quite good in exam conditions. they didn't fare so well because the teacher would look at how they had performed averagely over the course of 2 years. Luckily, Jada performed well, sort of. She's quite consistent, to be fair, right? So the teacher said she's been quite consistent over the 2 years, and so her average grade was really good. But still, the opportunity to sit the exam was taken away from her. And like I say, it in the end, it worked well for her because she did get very good grades. But for some children, perhaps less so. And we know that for ethnic minority children, sometimes their grades can be up to 10% lower than their white counterparts. A study's been done on that at Bristol University. So I think for some children, this didn't work well. And so when the government did this algorithm, Jada actually didn't get her place at Nottingham University because she hadn't achieved the grades according to this algorithm, that was really upsetting. So you can imagine, as a parent, I'm emailing everybody, right? I'm being a Karen. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
I was beside myself. And then, like I say, the grades were changed, and then she did get in, and she's studying the course that she wanted to do. But yeah, it was a really difficult and challenging time.
Karen, I want to come back to something you said about the link between a degree in a good enough subject and affluence. But we're going to bring in Sarah. Sarah, what's your take?
Right. So I didn't go to uni until I was 28. And actually, I feel quite strongly about this because when I was young, I did a number of jobs really, but I never really wanted to go to uni. So when I did well at school, I come from an affluent family. I was never pushed to do uni. I've always said to my dad, I'm not doing uni. He's like, that's fine. Just make sure you get some GCSEs and A-levels and make sure you get a good job. So that's what I did. I went down to London. I got a job working for a fashion house that time. Later on became an estate agent. And after that, I became a therapist. But the point was, when I was 18, if you'd asked me to choose either an apprenticeship, which I didn't even really think about, I don't really remember, but like Karen said, there being offers of any apprenticeships when I was, 18. And even if there were, guys, would I have picked psychotherapy? No. I'd have picked, I think I used to want to join the army when I was like 16. I mean, come on. You know what I mean? I wanted to join the army. And now I'm a counsellor. So it's kind of like, had there been an apprenticeship, I'd have picked the wrong one anyway. So that would have been a dud. And uni, what would I have studied at uni? Really? I mean, I loved art. I was very good at art. If I'd have studied art, that would have got me absolutely nowhere. I mean, I love art still. But the thing is, at that age, I would not have known what to study. So I'd have picked the wrong course. And my absolute nightmare would be to be in student debt for the wrong course. I don't mind student debt, but it's got to be for the right course. And to be in student, can you imagine if I did a course in fine art or something? You know what I mean? No, scrap that. So I think if you're really sure what you want to do and you're 18, you just go for it. That's fine. But I only really found out that, I wanted to study. It ended up being psychotherapy. I came out as a counsellor. I only found that out in my, early 20s. And the only reason I found that out is because my life experiences brought me to a stage where I knew that I was good with talking to difficult to reach people, and I loved it. But I wouldn't know that. I'd never have known that from school. Never. So I guess my thing is, everyone's different. Everyone gets to where they want to get to, but different stages in life. And I know, had an apprenticeship been offered, had someone said pick uni, I'd have picked the wrong thing. So I think my kind of view on it is, for my daughter, is if she's really passionate about something, so we're talking about something like medicine or law, something that's going to be a good 5 to 7 years. Yeah, I think it's definitely worth. I mean, you want to become a doctor. I mean, yes, okay, you could start now and be 70 when you qualify or something, but like realistically, the sooner the better. But if you're not quite sure, then I think an apprenticeship is absolutely fab. And we all know employers always ask for experience. So life experience and experience in a certain role will get you far. And let's just be real, it is about who you know, and the experience you have, unless you're going to a specific career, something like medicine, law, or something you need a specific body of work, I don't know, 5 or 7 years that you have to have, fair enough. But I think everyone's different. I think Jada's passionate about what she's studying, and that's right for her. But if somebody else is passionate about something else, then I think an apprenticeship can be really good, and it can really get you on the rung kind of the ladder to get somewhere. I mean, I don't know if they still do, I'm sure, but like investment banks, they have apprenticeships and things like that. That would be fantastic. Someone like an investment bank, you'd earn a goddamn fortune within 4 years of doing it. So,
well, I'm going to ask Tyana to say something about her apprenticeship in an investment bank, because she's probably going to earn a fortune. I'd love to help you to spend it.
Tell us.
Yeah, my apprenticeship's in banking, and I've done a level 4 apprenticeship, which is equivalent to first year of uni. So there's different levels of apprenticeship. You can do level 2 up until level 7. Level 2 is same as GCSE. Level 3 is A-level and BTEC. Level 4 is first year uni, 5 is second year uni, 6 is third year uni, and 7 is master's degree. So I was kind of looking at degree apprenticeships and level 4 upwards, but I applied to loads of apprenticeships, and the apprenticeships in banking are really, really competitive. So I had to do loads of interviews. And whilst I was applying for apprenticeships, I was actually in Berlin at the time, because I took a gap year after sixth form. So I was literally back and forth between London and Berlin doing interviews and all of that stuff. And I finally got my apprenticeship, and my starting salary was 20k. And then after my apprenticeship finished, I got a pay rise straight away. And 8 months after, I got another pay rise. And then when you work in banking, you get bonuses every year. So it was like, I always knew that I wanted to earn a lot of money like really quickly, because I just wanted to get my life on track and then after chill. But at the start, it was kind of like, when I told my mum about apprenticeships, at first she was like, no, you're going to uni. And I was like, no, I'm not going to uni. One of my aunties, she said, no, there's no point in doing an apprenticeship, because like, I think it was Karen that said this, Black people have to work like 3-4 times harder just to get to the same level as their white counterparts.
Yeah.
So she was really against apprenticeship. She literally said to me, you're not going to get anywhere in life if you don't go to uni. And obviously I get it, because it's a different generation. And I know that apprenticeships back in the day, they kind of used to have like a really bad stigma. You didn't really get paid much. You kind of was doing like the little jobs, apparently, like getting a coffee and getting all these little bits and bobs. But with my apprenticeship, it was straight in, like hands down. I was doing a lot of the work that all my colleagues were doing, but just obviously on a lower level, and then gradually you build up. But with apprenticeships as well, it's not the easy way out, because I know a lot of people think that it is, but I had to do 3 exams, and this is over the course of 18 months. I had to do 3 exams. I had to do something called an endpoint assessment, which was similar to a dissertation, and I ended up writing, I think, 8,000 words for it. And you have 6 pieces of coursework to do, so it was 1 piece of coursework every 2 months. You also have to make a log of all the learning that you're doing to show that you're actually doing 7 hours of learning every single week. So I just want to let people know it's not the easy way out, because you're also doing that on top of working 4 days a week. So it's about balance. If you can balance both, then it's fine. But then with degree apprenticeships as well, one of my friends is doing that, and she's finding it really difficult because the demands of the degree are so high. And then when she's doing her actual job as well, she's getting in like really early, like 7, 8 a.m, leaving at 6. So with her, like the work-life balance isn't great. So that's why you have to kind of like in the interview stages, you have to ask them about the work, their typical work day, their typical apprenticeship structure, so that you can kind of get an insight before you actually step into it.
Nice. Any questions for Tyana, guys?
I just want to say I love the fact of your apprenticeship, Tyana. I think that's really full, and I just gives you so much experience, and a lot of people are always asking for experience. Remember when I first started my first job, they kind of took me, under their wing, and I had no experience at all, and that was so hard to get that job. It's like trying to get blood out of a stone. It was so hard. So I think now it's near to impossible. I think most employers will ask you for experience even though you don't have any. So what you're doing is worth its weight in gold. I think that's really, really good. So I just want to say, well done. And yeah, keep going.
Thanks.
Hey.
I would just like to second that. I think it's amazing that you've got that apprenticeship. You sound as if you work very, very hard. And I think it was the right choice for you. You obviously knew what you wanted to do, and you seem really passionate about what you're doing. I think it's fantastic. You've got that opportunity, and you're in there. I think apprenticeships probably work really well for particular career paths as well. So maybe like for banking, I think it's perfect because you will be gaining a lot of experience in the banking world and what that means, and you can go from bank to bank, couldn't you? I suppose, or work your way up. So that's really, really helpful. I suppose for something else though, like if you were studying something else that maybe was quite technical, that required, I don't know, time in a lab, or I don't know, where it wasn't so hands-on, I guess, where it was a bit more academic.
Yeah.
I guess then it wouldn't work. But like I say, it just depends on what you're doing, doesn't it? And I think for you, this has just been the perfect route. So well done to you.
Thank you. And yeah, I agree. I always tell people, if you kind of know what you want to do, then definitely look at doing an apprenticeship. But if you do just want the uni experience, then obviously go for it. But the reason I didn't really care about the experience too much is because I already had like a lot of friends. So I didn't really care to make new friends and stuff. And I did take a gap year, so I had the independent living as well. So it just made sense for me.
Chia, so you're nodding your head when Karen was saying something about if your career path is more technical.
Yeah.
So would you like to say something about your degree and why it had to be a degree?
Because I study science, so I kind of understand what she meant in terms of technicality, because I would spend time in a lab. There's things that you kind of have to understand in terms of like lab skills that you can't really just know if you're not experiencing it. You need experience firsthand to understand it properly. So I get what she means.
Are you passionate about bioscience?
If I'm being honest, that wasn't my drive to go uni. My drive to go uni was to independence and the lifestyle.
Yeah.
I was gonna be honest, like that was my main drive.
That's a really expensive drive towards independence. About 45 grand later.
I mean, obviously there's pros of going uni as well, but I wouldn't say that. The education, that was my main drive to go.
Yeah,
if I'm being honest.
Yeah. And is this something you felt your parents expected of you? Was it expected you would study higher level study? I
don't think it was really expected, to be honest. So I was fortunate in that way. I know a lot of my friends, their parents kind of pressured them, especially if I think in like a West African community. I know they say a lot like their parents really pressured them to go. So fortunately for me, I didn't really have that.
Okay.
So I'm lucky on that side.
Yeah. And will that degree earn you a load of money? Can it?
It can. I mean, I do, because it's science, it's a STEM course. And I feel like STEM always looks good, especially as a black man as well.
True.
I think it's very impressionable.
I agree. Yeah.
I was just going to add to that, because I think you're quite right. As a person of colour in STEM, it's not as common, is it? It's quite rare. And for Jada, being a black female in STEM, it's even less common. Yeah. So you belong to, what's the society called, Jada?
It's called Women in STEM Society. I'm going to be the president of it next year, which is very exciting. Well, this year.
Congrats.
Exciting. Yes, thank you. Yeah. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, that's good.
Jada, I know you're a high-achieving young lady academically, but I also know you have an artistic side. Do you get to express that much?
Definitely, but I think you're limited on what the brief is that you're given. So one of the design challenges of last year was to design like a thermometer for a child. And there were only so many things you could really do with it. And it make it very like gimmicky or look too bulky, had to fit a certain, style or design. But definitely, like in our group project we had this year, it was to design like a caravan. So we were split into like 3 equal teams. We had, equal creative input. And I think that was a bit more expressive of our design styles and what we like to do. So I definitely say there is like, I can put my creative outlet into these projects.
Fantastic. So I went to uni at 16 because it was expected. I was in Jamaica. There was no other option. It's education or they used to say is go to school or pick up bottle. Oh my God. Do I want to walk about picking up bottles for the rest of my life? No, then you go to uni. So I finished high school and I went straight into uni, independent living. I was in a dormitory. I loved it. Now, I didn't want to do business admin. I wanted to do psychology. And my dad was like, no, you're not doing that. That doesn't make sense. What kind of job are you going to get? You have to do something that you can get a job in. So I chose accounting and business because my brother was doing it. And I was fairly good with numbers, but I hated it. I hated every minute of it. And then when I came to England, actually my first job was kind of good because I was really nosy. And I was investigating tax for the tax office. Oh my gosh, very nice. All up in people's business. I did love that. But I didn't love that. It wasn't for me. But I had to get a job as soon as I left uni. Then I could support myself. We know how it goes. When I came to England, I got a job working for an oil company. And that's when the benefits of that course really paid off. So I could see why parents push their children towards business and accounting because the bonuses were more than the salaries sometimes in that industry. 10 years in it, and I hated it. Oh, and it wasn't until I was on maternity leave with my daughter that I thought, I'm going to study psychology, but it wasn't really psychology I wanted to do. It was psychotherapy. So I decided to retrain. Big gamble, took a risk, but I did a degree course. So now this is my second degree. And my parents haven't a clue what I do. He didn't then, he doesn't now. They're like, what is therapy? But okay, you're an adult now. I don't really use that first degree much. So I totally get what Sarah was saying. At that age, you're so young, you're stupid. You don't really fully know what you want. So that for me was a wasted degree. And it cost a lot of money. My children, none of them want to go to uni, much to my horror. I was so looking forward to that mortarboard moment and the black gown and the graduation pictures, and none of them want to do uni. They're both very, very creative. Well, one's a sportsman, the other one is a creative. And for them, the idea of going to university is wild because why do I want that level of debt for something I'm not sure about? So my daughter Leah is not going to an apprenticeship because if there was one, I think she would love it.
Yeah.
In performing arts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what she's doing now, it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. She's writing, she's putting music to demos. She's in her creative bag and she's really enjoying it. I would have loved the security of an apprenticeship for her. But she feels quite confident she's going to make a ton of money because she's intending not to live my life, which I'm here for. She's quite confident she's going to still make money, a lot of it, doing it her way. So I think it's good for this generation that we're allowing them the freedom to choose between 4 careers: teacher, doctor, lawyer, accountant. Yeah, we're freeing our children in a way I wasn't free to pursue what really I'm passionate about. But Karen, you said something earlier that the families you were looking at were wealthy and they were all degreed up. I'm on my 3rd one. I'm not wealthy. So what's missing?
Well, they're not. I tell you what's missing is that they are 2-parent household families.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah, because it's not that they're wealthy, they are comfortable.
Right.
They are, right? So, and that's really what struck me. When I grew up in Bristol, my family and my community were very working class, and there was absolutely nothing wrong with that at all, right? I'm very, very proud of my background, very, very proud of my parents. But when I moved to Kent, I met with families who were very middle class. And I'm not classist, but I just want to sort of make a comparison so that I can explain what I mean. So these families, number one, they are 2-parent household families. That instantly makes a difference because you have now got 2 incomes, right? It also makes a difference in the sense that one can support the other. So, for example, dad might work in the day, comes home, mum works nights. He supports her while she trains or moves up in whatever she was doing. The woman I'm talking about happens to be a nurse. So she would have studied nursing back home years ago. Now she's gone beyond a nurse. So she might be, I don't know, running the ward, or she might have gone into, I don't know, she was able to progress through her career. Because if you study something like nursing, that's just the basis. You can actually go quite far in that as a career. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So for some people, those kinds of degrees are really lucrative because they allow you to expand and to grow and develop. And you don't have to stay a nurse. Not that staying a nurse, there's nothing wrong with that either, but it allows for growth is what I'm trying to say. So there are certain things. And I looked at these families and I thought, wow, perhaps dad studied as an engineer, civil engineering years ago back home. He's come here. That's quite a big career path also. So he's been able to progress and grow. And it was those sorts of families I looked at. And they, to be fair, the families I'm talking about, their children seemed really well balanced. They seemed quite happy. They seemed, I don't know, just quite calm. I liked their family values and what that brought. And I guess they were inspirational to me because, like I say, mum and dad could afford things that perhaps I couldn't. And the other thing I found was that when I started looking for jobs, almost every advert would say educated to degree level, even if the degree was not in the subject or in the career that you wanted to take. It would just say educated to degree level. I thought, wow, there is something about this, going to uni. And so while I was, I worked in a school as a cover supervisor. So it's like being a supply teacher, but I wasn't qualified. And I really enjoyed my job and loved working with children, very, very passionate about what I did. And someone took quite a liking to me, right? And they said, look, we want to train you. We think you'd make an excellent teacher. We want to send you to uni. And that's really how I got my degree. I subsequently didn't go into teaching. I then went into children's mental health. But had I not done that degree, I could not have done my postgraduate. So,
right.
Like I say, it's horses for courses, right? Is that the saying? I guess it just depends on the person and what you want to do. But I do believe that there is a place for university. Unfortunately, it is ridiculously overpriced. And I think that is really where this country really needs to have, reform the education system. In other countries, some countries it's free, for example. And in some countries, it's just not as expensive. So, the fact that we are charging ridiculous amounts of money for young people to go to university is so off-putting and such a shame. I think that is something that, as a country, we should really stand up and say, this isn't on. But we're quite complacent, aren't we? We don't complain. We just kind of nod and wave and get on with it. But that's something I do feel quite strongly about.
I just want to go by what you've said, Karen. Kind of think about that a bit more, because I have two parents, right? I grew up in a two-parent household, so it was an affluent household. My dad, actually, he didn't go to uni. My mum did go to uni because she believes that, I know now teachers don't have to be qualified as such as that they used to be, but she's in the old school kind of teacher where she went to uni. She got, I think it was like, she went to teacher training college and she went to uni or something, got a degree. Whatever she had to get, old school time, she got to become a teacher. Right, so she did that. My dad has worked in business his whole life. He didn't go to uni. He grew up in a working class household and he grafted and grafted. And it wasn't an apprenticeship then. He's about 80 something then, but he trained on the job basically, and he worked his way up until he became kind of like a business strategist. And he did that for most of my life that I remember. And that was basically from being in a company and watching what, I think his dad was involved in it, but watching what they did. And that's how he learned to do what he did. So I think that's kind of framed why he wasn't pushing me to go to uni, because he became very successful and he didn't go to uni. And I guess my mum, again, didn't push me to go to uni. So seeing his success, seeing what Tyana said and listening to her as well, I know with my daughter, I literally will not push her for uni. I really won't, because also I'm a very creative person, and said before, I wouldn't have picked the right course. The student debt is insane. I think I saw a meme somewhere about someone being 75 and they finally paid off their student loan. I just think that, as I said, each for his own. If you're doing a course where you can actually use it, fine. But I mean, I just can't think of anything worse. I mean, Kay, are you still paying off your debt for that accounting course? If you are, God help you. You know what I mean? That to me, that's what a waste of time.
So that was Jamaica, and that was late 80s, 90s. There was no student loans company, so your parents had to,
right?
Which is even worse, because they had to work hard day and night to pay the tuition fees, and they didn't force us to work while we were studying. A lot of children had to work and study. We didn't have to. Mm-hmm. The counselling degree, oh my God, I haven't touched the sides of that. I owe more now than what I took out in
That's different,
2010.
That's different, I feel, because that's paved you, and then now you're doing your master's. That's all. I feel that's in the same bundle, if that makes sense, because you're a therapist. Yeah. So, but I just feel for a degree that you don't even use, to me that's just painful. I mean, I was lucky because my employer paid for half my qualification at uni and let me have a day off in order to do my placement. And also I got pregnant when I was at uni in my final year. It stopped me going on to do my master's, but at least I was child-free whilst I qualified, because, right now with my daughter age 9, I just couldn't work, do my job, do uni and be a full-time mum. I would just find that so hard, as a single parent as well. It
is hard. So, I did it as a single parent. It is tough. Yeah. But I love studying. So I did use that initial degree for about 10 years. I did make quite a bit of money, like I said, but it's not something I knew I would not follow through for the rest of my life.
That's the thing, though, because I think with some... Yeah. When you think about psychotherapy, that I would not have studied it had I not had the life experience that came before that. I wouldn't... So everything happens for a reason. I would never have picked psychotherapy when I was 18. So therefore, if I'd done some apprenticeship or I'd gone to uni to study the wrong thing, I probably wouldn't be who I am now.
Well, you couldn't train before you're 25 anyway, right? For counselling, psychotherapy, you can't start training before you're 25 anyway.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah, you need some life experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask all three of you in turn. I'm going to start with you, Chi. In 10 years' time, do you see yourself as a bioscientist?
I was never trying to be a bioscientist, to be fair. But if you mean as in terms of using my degree, then yeah.
In what way?
So right now, I already have an idea what I want to get into. So hopefully, to answer your question, then
yeah. If 10 years later you think I'm not so passionate about this anymore,
I wouldn't really see it as a loss, because I just feel like it's just part of the journey.
Right.
I feel like if you look at it as a loss, then you'll never really appreciate what you've done. At the end of the day, you can say, I got a degree, I showed self-discipline, I met good people, I got good life skills. There's more to it than just, obviously the money's a big part, but if you're only focusing on the money, then you should never look at uni at all. That's what I think. So.
That's a very good point. Very good point.
Tyana, in 10 years' time, are you still a banker?
Definitely not. From the jump, I didn't expect to be in banking past the age of 30 anyways. But now I'm tapping into my creative side, so hopefully I'm not in banking next year.
Do you want to say a bit more about your creative side?
I'm a rapper now.
Do you hear that, ladies?
You're a rapper?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So that's what I want to pursue. But I'm not going to leave my job until, obviously, I start making enough money from music.
Okay. You know, just send us demo tapes or something so we can hear.
Brilliant. This is exciting.
Yeah, we keep her song plays in my car all the time and we bop. She's good. She's really good. But yeah, if you don't mind, ladies, I'll put it in the blurb.
Yeah.
The link to Tiana's music. So already you're shifting from your initial training. Had you gone to uni and studied, I don't know, business, and then at 22 think, actually, I don't want to do this, I'm going to be a rapper, would that have been a waste of money, bearing in mind what she just said?
I think it would have.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Jada, how about you? In 10 years' time, are you still an engineer?
I would say so, but then maybe again, something to do with more like creative. So I don't know when this started, but I just thought randomly one day, like, oh, it would be really cool to like work on humanitarian projects, like, you know, doing sustainable housing and like water supply. I'm not sure I'm going to get into that as of right now, but something to do with like sustainability, but I guess still within my realm of my degree.
Yeah.
Jada, you thought about becoming an architect. Could you use your degree to become an architect?
I
Is that
don't.
something not?
You would have like some skills and some principles, but I think you have to take a specific degree
Architecture.
in order to become an. I don't think you can have that name without doing a certain degree. But I definitely think it would give me a really good foundation, like a good start.
Interesting.
So if I'm right, Karen, Sarah, and myself, we are on second careers, third maybe?
Yes. I've had multiple careers.
Multiple, probably like fourth or fifth. At least 3 or 4. One that can't be named.
I think that's the best one, Sarah, quite frankly.
Yeah, not hearing about that.
So that's the other thing to consider, that your child might want to change direction at some point.
Is that a bad thing, though? Do you think that's a bad thing?
To change direction?
Yeah.
Absolutely not. Considering your brain doesn't fully develop till your late 20s.
Yeah.
When your prefrontal cortex finally develops and you've matured and you go, now I know what I'm really passionate about. If I had all the money in the world, I would get up out of bed and do this thing. Then yeah, change, by all means.
Then do you not think that we kind of make the decision to choose to go uni or doing it too young?
I think so.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it's way too young.
But what would you do up until that point where you are like,
Work.
you know, like
Ready.
mature enough to know? It's kind of difficult.
Work, travel.
Yeah, explore.
Work, travel, explore. I just did basic. I thought, right, I want to make money. What can I do? I'm 18. Went to London. I sent out 100 CVs and then I got my first job. And through that first job, then I got the second job. And through that second job, I realised I was good at selling things to people. So someone said, why don't you become an estate agent? So I thought, okay, that's just me though. I just went for it. I thought, yeah, I'm going to do that then. So I applied to them and then I did that and I realised I was good at selling things to people. I did something else. You know what I mean? So I think one thing led to another. So I just did whatever I was drawn towards to do. And that's what created my life experience. And then I realised I was good at talking to people. And then that, along with another experience, got me realise I was good at talking to difficult people, which led me on to psychotherapy route. So I'm the kind of person, I've just always gone by what I wanted to do. I've not thought about, when I've got older, the bigger picture. When I was you guys' age, I just wanted to have fun, earn money, and expand my brain a bit. And that was it.
Tyana, what were you doing in Berlin? You had a gap year in Berlin.
Yeah, I was just working at TK Maxx. So I used to work at TK Maxx in London during sixth form. And then I took a gap year because I left it too late to apply to apprenticeships because I was focusing on my exams. So I took a gap year, went to Berlin, worked at TK Maxx there, and then came back, worked at TK Maxx for a couple of months before I started my apprenticeship.
So there are things you can do whilst you're waiting to go into uni.
Yeah.
I think at 18, it's a huge life decision to make.
Yeah, it is. And it's expensive.
And it's huge. So Leah's friends, for instance, some of them are studying classics and history, and I'm thinking, what are you going to do with that degree? Exactly. Teach? And they don't want to teach. So what are you going to do with that degree? And without being facetious, maybe for Black people, we don't kind of do degrees that can't directly earn us money. So something like that, yeah, maybe I would throw a fit if my child wanted to study classics, because why? What is that? What?
Oh, that's a good point. Jada, what did you want to study when you were younger?
So when I was a kid, I loved watching Jurassic Park movies, and I really wanted to be like a paleontologist. Where I came from, but I just like those like sort of movies, and then I think we bought like a bunch of like ancient history books, like Egypt and dinosaur like excavation. And that was so cool. And the mum was like, no.
Paleontology?
No.
Okay, that's a really good idea. However,
Karen, she could have gone to somewhere like, they find all the dinosaur bones on Brazil or wherever they find them.
Yeah, like
she could have gone to study huge skeletons and stuff. I used to be fascinated by that as well, Jada. Absolutely, especially the ones under the sea. I just want to go somewhere and kind of dig them up and study them. Fascinating.
Yeah,
I think it's cool.
Yeah, I'm afraid it would be fascinating.
I'm with Kay on that. I think it's really difficult, isn't it? So I think when after we sort of dismissed that idea, because I'm not saying it couldn't have been lucrative, but we looked at, with both my kids, we've looked at jobs, right? If they say they're interested in something, we go online and we say, okay, what sort of jobs could you do with that? That's what we did.
Yeah.
So we had a look at, what was it, excavation? I can't remember what it was. Was it fossil archaeology, that kind of thing? Was
it? Archaeology, yeah.
Right, so we looked at that sort of thing. And we realised that there weren't very many vacancies in the job centre for that, to be fair.
Wow.
The job centre,
So she started to, because the other thing is children change, right? So then, like I say, she became really interested in design and making things. She's very into like manufacture, from sort of conceptual idea to end product, right? That just became her thing. And she'd talk about whether something was ergonomic. Is that what the word is, right? So whether it's functional. So she clearly had a passion for this. So at school, at A-level, you studied product design, was it?
Yes.
She did exceptionally well in that. I think she got an A star in that. It was just something that she really liked. So then we thought, okay, how do we take this further? How could this progress into a job? So then she found something that was a cross between engineering and product design. And it seemed like a really good compromise because A, she was passionate about it, and B, she could get a job in it. Because I think when you're a parent who is not affluent, I'm a single parent, it's very important that my children are financially independent, right? Especially being a woman. It was really, really important for me to encourage her to gain some sort of financial independence, because the bank of mum is limited, right?
Yeah.
So I think that also heavily influences our choice. I think if I were very comfortable, I was quite well off, and I was, I had lots of money, I think she could have studied, I don't know, tapestry making if she wanted to, because I know that I could support her. There's no tapestry making around here because I can't help you when there isn't a job. So I think that when you are poor, you are much more, I think we're limited, aren't we? And I think that's why parents of ethnic minority families who are not comfortable, who are not affluent, who are single parents, it's an added element. It's an added pressure. And like I say, I never ever want to say to either of my children, you will do this. Never. But we needed to come to some sort of compromise. You need to be passionate about it. You need to like it, but it's got to be lucrative. You've got to be able to earn a reasonable living. And that's really where I came from. Rightly, I'm not saying perhaps it's not ideal. Wouldn't it be lovely if she could have gone off and just studied, I don't know, dinosaurs and fossils? That'd be lovely, but I just don't know how that would have helped her. And I do think that would have been a wasted degree, if I'm honest, because what's the likelihood of her still being really interested in Jurassic World now?
Very likely.
Okay.
That childhood dream has not died yet. Okay? Not yet.
That's the Karen. I have to say, my mindset has changed. I used to think if they're not educated, I've let them down. That what am I going to tell my family? Everybody's degreed up in my family, minimum of 2. So my 2 are letting the side down. And when people ask you, what are your children studying? What are they doing? Are they college? I hate those questions because there's such judgment around them. But I'm now more about the money. If she wants to be a bartender, she probably make more money than I will, or a hairdresser. Go for it. As long as you are economically able to stand on your own and you're solvent, you can always study later in life.
On that, this is the thing. I feel like I do want to get a degree, but I just didn't want to do it at 18. And it might be because I saw my mum do her degrees when she was an adult. So for me, I didn't really think, okay, I have to do this now or never, because I know you can literally study at any point. But I know that in the future, I do want to get a degree in economics and philosophy. So I probably will, but later on in life.
Before family or?
Whenever.
Yeah. Nice. All right, so that's it for this week's episode. Any questions, final words from anyone?
I just want to say it was absolutely lovely meeting both of you tonight. Thank you so much for your input and being, open and honest about your career paths and your choices. Wishing you the best of luck for the future and whatever you do. And yeah, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having us as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, I second that, guys. Thank you very much for coming on and kind of sharing your experiences. And I think you should just all do whatever you want to do with your lives that makes you happy and makes you feel good. So yeah, thanks for coming on.
Same for me, Jada, Tyana, Chi. I'm a nerd, so I'm very excited to be sitting with 2 STEM students and a banker and a rapper. Like, what? I'm just feeling really good right now. And I'm so proud of all of you. Like, this is the future. This is our future, and it's really exciting. It's going to be in your hands. So thank you for coming. I wish you all the best with your studies, Jada, going into year 3. I hope you get a job that pays you lots. Go get the bag. That's all I'm saying. The degree is half not as important as the money in this economy.
Yeah, exactly.
So go get the bag, ladies.
Jada's promised to send me on, was it business travel?
Oh, yes.
Yes, when I go to visit her in Canada, which is where she wants to end up. So I'm hoping that, yeah, she does make a lot of money. Care homes are very expensive, so
care homes are not for me. I'm going home to sit on a veranda, sip pepperminty and watch people pass by.
Oh, that's right. I remember that. Yeah.
So, yeah, enjoy your business class trip when you fly it.
Thank you.
I'll leave that, right?
Well, thank you for listening, everyone. So email us at Beautifully Melanated. Now that's Spotify. I will get it right one day. Email us, Beautifully Melanated podcast @gmail.com. And our Instagram is at Beautifully Melanated podcast. And we will put in the blurb link to Tyana's music. Turn the bass up. Enjoy. And all platforms. Yeah, on all platforms. And look out for our Instagram in the next few weeks. We have some new and exciting things coming up. Take care. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye. We are beautifully